Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. This is a live edition of This is MLS, hanging out with you 12 to 1 Eastern time. So be sure to subscribe, get in that chat, do me a favor. Also, like the stream. And what a trio I have today. Bradley Wright-Phillips, Dax McCarty, and Kaylin Carr. Hello, fellas. We got to give Bradley Wright-Phillips just some love before we get going here today. Not only is he dressed to the T, but he has a Dax McCarty jersey in the background. Look at you, Bradley, stepping up your game.
I had to show the skip some love. You know what? Funny thing about this jersey, you'll never know. It's an extra small. I didn't know you were extra small, bro.
Listen, I've always had a small frame, all right? And it was a good way to keep myself motivated to stay in shape.
Big heart, though.
Brad, listen, as I got older, I looked at you and I was like, I don't want to have quite as stark of a dad bod as Bradley Wright-Phillips.
Wow.
So I'm going to wear the tight jerseys. That kept me motivated.
I hate
Was
you.
that part of a jersey swap, Dax?
Oh, yeah.
Brad, what was this? Yeah, when do you remember when that one was from?
I don't know. You know what's rare, Jill? I don't normally swap jerseys, but I played a long time with Dax. So when you play,
He must
I think it was.
you have to take that.
I think
shirt.
it was.
You have to take that shirt.
I think it was after a game where Red Bull ended up winning, which was traumatizing for me. But also, I ended up bodying Brad, kind of threw him on the ground, little boy, a little bit.
The game you're thinking of was a Chicago game. You just played for a bunch of teams. You're the journeyman, so you play for a bunch of teams. You don't remember. Your mind.
Oh, right. That's not a Chicago jersey.
Hey,
That's a Red Bull
he's
jersey.
not the journeyman. This is the journey captain you're talking to.
That's facts. That's my skip, man.
Don't
Always love for
disrespect.
Daxie.
Kaylin Carr, can you send him a jersey by next week, please?
I was actually just trying to see if Dax is behind him. Are you at the beach, man? Is that the tiniest palm tree I've ever seen, man? Yeah.
That's hey, Florida life, palm trees everywhere. We're buzzing, man.
Nice.
My son's saving turtles. It's going to the beach. We got a lot going on here down in Florida, but beautiful weather.
We have a lot going on in this show as well. Here's what the people can look forward to today. We've got transfer rumors, what big names could be coming into MLS, what big moves could we be seeing outbound? Plus, Mauricio Pochettino, head of the U.S. men's national team, names his 26-man Gold Cup roster yesterday. We're going to discuss that. And the marquee part of the show today is Portland Timbers head coach Phil Neville is hanging out. He's answering your questions. He's always a good time. He's upfront and he's honest. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. But something else all of you can stay tuned for is potentially some new looks from our talent here at MLS. Not too long ago, Dax McCarty and Sasha Kleshin pledged on Wrap Up to dye their hair blonde if the one win in 17 games LA Galaxy would make the playoffs. And the internet did us a solid. Thank you, internet.
Who is that? Who is that guy to the left? Why is his head so much bigger than his body?
The Sasha one looks like Marco Royce.
I was going to say, they keep saying AI is going to take everyone's jobs. I'm like, if these two stroll up to the studio one day, I don't know. I'm not so sure.
I look like a younger, blonder Walter White.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why do I look like that?
I'm not working with those two. If those two turn up, I would not.
By the way,
Jill. Yeah.
I got completely bullied into that from Kevin Egan. I just said, hey, I will grow up my mustache. I still I don't think the Galaxy are going to make the playoffs, but now that I got roped into shaking Sasha's hand and agreeing to that, I think they're 100% making the playoffs now.
There is something about Dax, though, that the energy is still there, like that number 6 in the midfield.
Still angry.
I can still see it.
Shout out to CR Foreign Legion. I just want to pay our respects. Thank you for this and helping me kick off the show today. I don't know which one I'm going with. I'm thoroughly, honestly disturbed by both.
They're weird looking. Very weird.
Very weird.
I need to see them do Brad next. I'm ready for that. Yeah.
It's done already.
Someone get to work.
It's already done.
Kaylin Carr.
No, with hair. I need the fro, man.
From this?
No.
What'd you say, Joe?
Studio crew. I'm out on the road. You can't catch me. Yeah.
I said, what makes Kaylin Carr think he's exempt from the internet?
Yeah, he should do something. He's involved.
If you search deep enough, you'll find a mustache pic online. You gotta search though.
I have that. I even have that one. All right, let's get to transfer business, shall we? The most exciting time of the year, the summer transfer window is ahead, and that means there's some ins and there's outs. Bradley Wright-Phillips, which MLS player could you see making the jump out of MLS this summer?
I think the obvious one for me is Alex Freeman. What he's done coming from MLS Next Pro, playing in the first team like he's been playing for years, like 10 years. The numbers back him up, 4 goals, an assist. He looks like he can score a brace every game from right back. Unbelievable talent, physical specimen. When I look at how he plays, not just physical, great with the ball. I can see him playing in any league in Europe. It just seems to me like he suits that. And he's a confident boy. For me, that's the obvious one. Alex Freeman's a baller, man. Been fun
Brad,
to watch.
I was doing a little bit of research because I figured someone was going to take Alex Freeman. I'm not surprised it's you. Obviously, he is a baller. He was my pick for the starting right back for the MLS All-Star game. He's been that good this year, and I don't think that's the wrong shout at all. But if you do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the numbers, Alex Freeman is 20 years old. My choice for transfer out is Quinn Sullivan. He's only a year older. He's having the best season of his career up until this point. He's taken on a ton of responsibility. I mean, if you guys remember before the season started, his younger brother, Kevin Sullivan, was all the rage, and for good reason, right? Going to Manchester City when he turns 18, uber talented. But Quinn Sullivan has actually gone on the field for the first team of the Philadelphia Union and done the business year in, year out. And I was comparing Alex Freeman and Quinn Sullivan a little bit. Quinn Sullivan's only a year older. Alex Freeman has 20 first team games to his name played. Quinn Sullivan, 111 games played in his young career so far. He's only 21 years old. He has established himself as not just one of the best players for the Philadelphia Union, but one of the best players in MLS. And he's been rewarded with the U.S. men's national team call-up. I think that Quinn Sullivan is a little bit further along in his career. He's a little bit more mature. And kind of to your point, Brad, Quinn Sullivan is almost one of those throwback type of midfielders. You don't really have to pigeonhole him in any one position in the midfield. I think he can play as a winger. I think he can play as a striker. I think he can play off the striker. It's just his versatility that gets me really excited. So I think a really shrewd team in the market, if they watch him and he has a good Gold Cup, I can see him leaving this summer.
I like both of those picks, Freeman. Both those guys went with the U.S. men's national team, but I'm going to actually look north of the border into Canada for the young player that I think is ready to make that leap to Europe, and that's Nathan Saliba, the 21-year-old midfielder for CF Montreal. And he got called in through Jesse Marsh a few times last year, was the Canadian Young Player of the Year. And this year, he's flying under the radar a little bit because CF Montreal have been so poor throughout the season, only one win. And, sometimes as a player, I think you have to take your career into your own hands and say, look, I've gotten what I need out of this phase of my career. I'm playing regularly, but I'm ready to take the leap. And Tom Bogert is reporting that Anderlecht in Belgium is looking for him. And it makes a lot of sense because Olivier Renard, former CF Montreal sporting director, is now the sporting director at Anderlecht. So he knows him well. It just feels like a no-brainer for me as the right time to make this leap. And if you want to not just make the World Cup team, but really see if he can push his way into actual minutes at the 2026 World Cup, I could see Nathan Saliba being really ready to take that next leap, going to Belgium. It's a really good league for him. And Anderlecht, one of the best clubs there, absolutely. So we'll see if Sasha Question can kind of push the needle a little bit to push this over the line. But
it's a great point.
Like this one.
It's a great point. And the only thing I would say with regard to all of these transfers with these young players is that I think there's a really delicate balance right here to be had with, do you make the move now this summer, a year out from a World Cup, when Quinn Sullivan, Alex Freeman, Nathan Saliba, even a Diego Luna, who we should mention in this category as well, all of them are playing some of the best soccer of their careers up until this point. Do you risk moving to a bigger league with an unknown, a team a manager that you don't know as well? And look, you can bet on yourself, go to a bigger, better league, and then maybe assure yourself of a call-in for the World Cup, or you take that risk and maybe it takes you 6 months to get settled in and you're not playing as much as you want to, and maybe you lose that opportunity to go to a World Cup when you know that in MLS you'll be playing at a pretty high level and also getting minutes. So that's the balance here with all of these young players, that they've got to make the decision for what works best for them in their careers, but also for the World Cup in a year.
Dax, it's a great point, because initially when I'm thinking about Alex Freeman, I think ideally for him, he doesn't need to move. Ideally for him, he needs to keep playing games. You even you were talking about it when you're talking about comparing him and Quinn Sullivan's games. He needs a lot more games. But just because he's done so well in a short space of time, how he plays, his player profile, teams are going to want to take him. But you're right, for all of those players, get the minutes here and the right people will see you.
You see it playing out right now with Matt Turner in the goalkeeper position, and
Facts.
not getting those minutes in the Premier League. So it's something to certainly think about. What is a crucial now 12 months ahead. All right, it's also a crucial month because it's the summer of soccer. There's a lot going on, and I want to talk a little bit about the Club World Cup. We've got Seattle, LAFC, and Inter Miami. So there are some big free agents out there. There's some guys that want to play in this tournament, are available now to move on. So I want to know, dream signing, Dax, who is coming to an MLS club and playing in the Club World Cup?
All right. I'm cheating here. I've got two. And when I went through the Seattle Sounders and Inter Miami's rosters and kind of their cap situations, it was really difficult to pick exactly a position to add to either of those teams. I think those teams can use a little bit of help here and there. But when I'm trying to be realistic about thinking about this, I think it's LAFC. And there's two players that really come to mind, both on two opposite ends of the spectrum, but both in that midfield. The first one is Gio Reyna. And with Dortmund, we all know he has not been getting minutes that he has. I've argued in the past that Gio Reyna should try to move to a more mid-level team in Europe. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, what if Gio Reyna just came back to MLS signed a 18-month contract? He signed for a team like LAFC. He got minutes. He established himself for a very good team in MLS. He could play in the Club World Cup. And then he makes himself a big part of that team. He gets minutes. They need that type of profile in midfield to be able to help them with ball progression, to be able to help them with chance creation from midfield. Right now, this team is just transition up and down. Denny Bouanga, brilliance. David Martinez, Abobasi, Ordaz. They're all really direct, pacey, fast players. But once teams sit in on them, Brad, they have trouble unlocking a backline. Gio Reyna could be that perfect foil for that. And it could help him get a mental refresh. I think he needs a refresh after his time in Dortmund. And the other player, as long as you can get him on a TAM contract, which is why I think it's brilliant that TAM has been introduced, is because in the past you wouldn't have been able to sign players like this. The one, the only Paul Pogba. If you can go and get Pogba, you make a splash, you get him on a TAM deal, so he's not going to hamstring your salary cap. He hasn't played in 3 or 4 years, which is a little bit of an issue in my opinion. But I think it's worth the risk if you're a John Thorrington because you have such a stable roster. You have such a good team already. I think Pogba would probably thrive in that LAFC midfield if he's on the right number.
One rebuttal there, or just one quick question of, just to play devil's advocate of, would it affect a Gio Reyna type or a Pogba type that they could come in and they know Steve Cherundolo's leaving at the end of the season, so they don't know what they're going to get in that
No, I don't think so. I think when you've, especially in Pogba's case, when you've not played for that long, I think you're going in with a mission to get yourself back fit, get back in the shop window, or get a contract at, LAFC. I had Pogba for LAFC. I like that shout. That's Gio Reyna, caught me by surprise. I think that should be looked at. That's a really good one. Pogba for LAFC. Tillman, sorry, one of you, Delgado, one of you out, Pogba in there, providing that front three. That'll be unbelievable. Agreed. I got one for Seattle. Jamie Vardy. Jordan Morris injured.
Ooh.
Jordan Morris injured. Danny Mosovsky, I love you. I think you're a great goal scorer, but still a little bit inexperienced for that kind of tournament. I think if you put Jamie Vardy, the man's 38. He played 35 games last season. He got 9 goals in a struggling Leicester side. I think if you could sign him for that tournament, you might be looking at something, a great story there. And that's a man for good stories. Inter Miami, I got to go here too. John Stones. The one thing about John Stones, because let's be honest, Inter Miami don't need any forwards. I think if you put in a centre back that's one that can be relied upon, if he's not injured, John Stones makes a lot of sense for me for Inter Miami.
Oh man, Jill, these guys just set me right up. I mean, because literally all of the names they're mentioning are names that I wrote down as the best move to make is not to sign these players. This is literally sometimes the best shot is the shot you don't take. And right now with a 10-day window to open up, that reeks of desperation to go out and sign Paul Pogba, who Dax just mentioned hasn't played in 3 or 4 years. Jamie Vardy, who's 38 years old. I mean, what are we talking about?
Kalen, you leave flexibility in the roster. You don't sign them to like a 4-year guaranteed contract.
Gio Reyna has been injured everywhere.
You're talking about Pogba like he didn't lead France to the World Cup. You can't just say, like a Paul Pogba that hasn't played. This is Paul Pogba, though.
And from a drama perspective,
you don't know what
just
Pogba
brush it under the carpet like it's nobody.
Pogba
Kalen.
and Vardy, these are great personalities
Vardy
of the league.
Kaylin,
Okay.
unfortunately, all the great players that are of a better age, they're not going to be available to sign in a 10-day window.
Olivier Giroud got his second goal of the season against CF Montreal as they were resting and rotating.
I could have told you Giroud wouldn't work out.
Marco Reus, where has he been as of late? Xherdan Shaqiri, where Insigne, Zaha.
You're naming designated players. You're naming designated players. No one is talking about them as designated players. These players
Kaylin, who is your pick? Okay.
Yeah, this should be good.
Look, if you want to look at a profile of the type of players that I think are making an impact, Joaquin Pereira, Minnesota United, 26 years old. David DaCosta, 24 years old. Orellana, 24 years old. Gabriel Peck, 24 years old. Signing players who are going to be around for a while that are not good. Just don't sign anybody as opposed to going out and signing Paul Pogba and Jamie Vardy to try.
That's all well and good, Kaylin, but those players that you just named are already on rosters, so you're not fighting any solutions.
And also, when we're talking about these signings, mine are more from experience playing in these kind of situations. Club World Cup's a big deal. You need players that have been around these kind of moments. That's where I'm
Kaylin's point, I agree with you that if you're looking for a long-term solution, you absolutely want to go younger. You want to go more of the designated player range with players that you can build around. I think this is more of a stopgap in terms of can you find a mutually beneficial situation for the player and the club?
Scratch yours. Yep.
Okay, but exactly. The way that it's worked before is when you've seen Gareth Bale come off the bench with, the equalizer to go in MLS Cup, or Marco Reus can give you a moment in the MLS Cup playoffs. None of these teams are close to going and winning the Club World Cup. The best we could hope for is, we've been debating all week, can we get out the group? Can LAFC make it out? Seattle's in the group of death. What is one of these players going to do against PSG, the European champions? It's these little moves.
I agree.
If they can see it,
with the thought to win the Club World Cup, they should be signed with the intent to make their team better and potentially go on a run. This is for all three of these teams, Kaylin. And one thing you cannot refute: Inter Miami, Seattle, LAFC. They will have a say at the end of the season. So if you think they can help you in the near term, Club World Cup bump, but also in a little bit of the longer term with regard to the Supporter Shield race, MLS Cup, and they're not going to cripple your salary cap heading into next year, I think that's absolutely worth a swing to take. If you're halfway through the season, you know you're going to be a contender, why not make a splash?
Can I say something, please? Nobody has brought up the fact that if Jamie Vardy came here, do you want to know what the biggest issue for me would be?
What's that?
That Wayne Rooney is no longer here. Do we remember the drama that went on? This could be epic for MLS. So if Vardy came back, I would be absolutely fine with it. But Wayne needs to come back into the league, and I need Colleen Rooney and Rebecca Vardy to
just throw down. Just throw down.
Yeah. And for anybody that doesn't know, the long of the short was there was just great WAG drama between these two, and that ultimately Jamie Vardy's wife was found to be leaking social media stories from Colleen Rooney's private account to all the tabloids in England. And it was a whole thing. It went to the courts. So I'm just saying this could be great for MLS. I'm here for Jamie Vardy. I am here for Paul Pogba. And I also want Wayne Rooney to come back to the league. So I'm just throwing that out there. Can I just throw out a quick name that I said at the top that just kind of had me thinking as this segment goes on? Could we see Matt Turner come back to MLS?
He should. I don't know if we will see him, but he should.
Now,
I think that's where he'll get.
If you were him, would you come back to MLS? Would you come back to MLS this summer if you were Matt Turner?
If he wants to play in the World Cup, get your ass back here, my friend.
Yes, I would absolutely come back to MLS. Unless he can find, we've seen it work out. He had one loan stint, I think that went okay, but then all the rest of his loan stints, he's just been on the bench. If he can find a loan at the lower tier levels in England, whether that be the Championship or somewhere else, then yeah, he should go as long as he's guaranteed to play. If not, you had your European adventure, you played at a massive club, you had some great moments. Come back to MLS, sign your long-term contract, go into the World Cup with rhythm, with games. That's what we need from our goalkeeper.
All right, let's go intra-league transfer. Bradley, if you could see one transfer happen within MLS clubs, which one would it be?
I love this question, Joe, because I was speaking to Dax about this a few weeks ago in the green room in studio in Connecticut. And all I've wanted to see since he's come in the league is Duncan Maguire. And I know people are going to say, yeah, it's Red Bull, but to Red Bull. I think that just makes so much sense. Duncan Maguire's game, willing to run, compress, dangerous around the box. Red Bull like to put balls in the box. He's not playing a lot of minutes right now for Orlando. For me, I just think that looks like a Red Bull striker, and he would do really well there. I would love to see that.
Yeah, Brad, that's a great one. Of course, we've talked about that. I knew that you were going to take that one. So that's why I was like, I can't take Duncan Maguire to Red Bull because that makes too much sense. And it would also, I think, make sense for Orlando City, considering Duncan Maguire isn't even a first-choice striker there right now. And you have Ramiro Enrique, who's on the bench. It's like a wealth of options for Oscar Pareja. I think if Orlando City was shrewd, they would try to get something for one of those two strikers if they're not going to use them, and then go and reinvest in the squad. But one for me that's pretty interesting, and I know one that's close to heart for a lot of Canadians, is Jacob Schaffelberg going back, the prodigal son, to Toronto FC. Jacob Schaffelberg has been underutilized a little bit in Nashville under BJ Callahan. BJ Callahan has completely revamped how Nashville SC plays. They don't really play with wingers. They play more with a 4-2-2-2 narrow formation. And to be honest, Jacob Schaffelberg, whenever he's come into the team, he's looked lively, he's looked dangerous, but it's been more so amongst that front line. Him and Hani Mukhtar have a really nice connection going on, but I think long-term, Jacob Schaffelberg is going to want to see more minutes, especially considering he is firmly in the Canadian national team plans. I think Toronto FC needs to start making moves right now to address what's going on for their future. Jacob Schaffelberg, started his career in Toronto as a young player, couldn't get many minutes under Bob Bradley. Nashville woke something up in Schaffelberg. It made him a household name. It got him into the Canadian national team. And if you're Toronto FC, he's on a manageable contract. He'd probably cost you a decent amount to get, but you still get him at a great age where he's got a young family. He can come back to Canada, and you can really start to build your attack around a player with his qualities, pace, fantastic left foot, the abilities. He's a great kid just in general. So I think if you're Toronto FC, it's absolutely something you explore.
Man, I love both of these. First of all, if BWP says Red Bull, go get a striker, you got to listen. You got to go take that player.
And you know what I heard there, Kalen? Choupo-Moting's not good enough. That's what I heard.
They can play 4-2-2-2 as well. They can do that.
Okay. Don't put words in my friend's
Lewis
mouth.
Morgan's injured. This is why I'm saying that. I have my reasons, but go on, Caleb.
Yeah. Well, Brian White, also who you guys know well, was Red Bull left, so he's reminds me a little bit of some of those qualities. And then Schaffelberg I like as well too. Although Toronto, I'm not so sure. Mainly because I like Tyrese Spicer, and I think they have some good wing play, Bernardeschi on the other side. But I could see Austin FC being another place because I'm not convinced with those wingers the way they've been so far. I'm going to look again to north of the border, and yes, you could say this is how much they've sent me to Montreal. But,
if your name is Kalen, you are the Canadian representative to MLS.
There's two things you can do, right? You can go to a good team, which these guys have, and said Nashville and Orlando, they have depth and there's players not being used. Or you can go to a team that's not doing well, and you can say, hey, look, maybe we can pick this player off. They need to make moves, shake things up. And for me, that player would be George Campbell. And the place I would see him go to is Columbus Crew. You guys, I heard you on Wednesday on This Is MLS talking about the way that they need a center back, right? They need a striker and they need a center back. And for me, George Campbell is underrated. He's gotten a sniff with the national team in the United States, but he's just 23 years old. He's on a good number. I could see him, potentially renegotiating that with a move. And he's been rumored to go to Bristol in the championship. And this is where I look and I say, this is what this rule is for, the in-player cash player trade rule. And it does you have to wait till the summer window opens on July 24th. But if you can go out and you get a known quantity as a center back, instead of bringing somebody in from abroad and hoping they settle, and it can take you over the top towards the playoffs. Campbell was assigned by CF Montreal 5 days after Wilfred Nancy left. So he hasn't gotten to work with him, but he fits the attributes, can play with the ball, but he has the athleticism that team has lacked. So Montreal have gone and got their manager. They've continued to go north of the border to look for more players. I think George Campbell from CF Montreal to Columbus could be a really good one for them.
All right. We'll put a pin. Sorry, Bradley.
No, I'm saying I don't hate it.
Okay. We don't hate it. Something that we don't hate either is if you guys could like our stream and subscribe to the MLS YouTube channel. So please be sure to do that. Also, get in the chat. I'm monitoring it. And we definitely want to throw your questions to these guys, but also our guest that's coming up in just a few moments' time, head coach of the Portland Timbers, Phil Neville. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be taking your questions. So get in the chat and hang out with us. But while we wait for Phil, let's talk about the international break. The U.S. men's national team manager, Mauricio Pochettino, named his 26-man Gold Cup roster yesterday. And on that list, guys, 15 MLS players and another 7 that have featured in MLS prior to moving abroad. So the 22 of 26 players on this roster have ties to the league. I like it. And I want to know this from you. Which MLS player has the most to gain from the national team during this Gold Cup?
Diego Luna. And it's Diego Luna because there is so much, I'd say, uncertainty surrounding the attacking positions with the U.S. men's national team. We have Christian Pulisic, who is rightly worn out from his club football commitments and who is not going to be a part of the U.S. men's national team this summer. You have Gio Reyna, who I mentioned earlier, who has not gotten consistent games for upwards of 2-3 years now. We know he's talented, but he hasn't been able to consistently prove it game in and game out. Diego Luna has already endeared himself to this entire fan base and to Mauricio Pochettino, who most importantly is the person who you want to impress the most. I've seen Pochettino talk about Diego Luna's January camp performance with the broken nose 3 or 4 times on big media obligations, big podcasts. He's in love with Diego Luna, as are, I'd say, everyone who gets to watch MLS week to week. Bradley Wright Phillips has dubbed Real Salt Lake Real Diego Luna because, quite frankly, the only time you watch Salt Lake, Diego Luna is literally putting them on his back. And so Diego Luna has taken a massive step forward in his career. I think he has the skill. I think he has the technical ability. I think he has that killer instinct that we don't really see with a lot of attacking players. And he's almost like this old school throwback street baller that the U.S. men's national team have just been missing. Right. And so I think that this could be a massive summer for Diego Luna, especially with what he has done at Real Salt Lake, taking more on his shoulders, acting more like a captain. He can do that this summer with the U.S. men's national team. There's a massive opportunity there for him.
And that photo of him with the bloody nose and everything, will go down in history if Diego Luna ends up being a real name for the U.S. men's national team. All right, who else?
Actually, I'd have to disagree. I'll go Brian White. And because of Brian White's age, Brian White's been in the league a long time. And I feel from the outside or just around the league, Brian White is looked at as a good MLS player. Yeah. And I know he's better than that. So I think having a good Gold Cup, Vancouver, if he goes there and gets Golden Boot, you have to be a DP now. And then also thinking ahead to the World Cup, the USA always struggle with number 9s. I don't know why they can't really find that number 9. Somebody has to go and take that spot. If it's Adjaman, if it's Brian White, one of those have to do it. And I think if he can, he'll get a lot more respect. He could be the lead number 9 for the US and then go back and get your DP contract because you should be. I think this is important for him.
I like that. The only thing I would say, Brad, is I feel like the spot that they're fighting for, Adjaman and Brian White, is the same spot. And it's off the bench, late in games, potentially looking towards 2026. And if I had a choice in that spot, I'd probably have to go with Adjaman. Just not because if you're picking me from the start, I'm going Brian White every single time. But if you're just looking for someone to change a game late, we've seen Adjaman do that. He didn't have the best start of the season, but has clicked into form right at the right time, right before going into camp. So I could see him continuing to impress under Pochettino and maybe making that leap.
In the chat, they said the second starting center back job next to Chris Richards is still up in the air. Zimmerman or Emrob can make a statement this summer.
I really like that. I really like that from whoever said that in the chat. I think it's Maisel the drummer. That's a really good point. And Walker Zimmerman is someone who I think is a little bit of an afterthought right now, especially after his performance at the 2022 World Cup. He was very good for the U.S. men's national team leading into that qualifying. And then he's kind of been forgotten about a little bit, mainly because of injury issues. He's got a really big opportunity this summer to, like the people in the chat are saying, to kind of establish himself and prove to Pochettino that he could be a veteran presence. He might be fighting for a spot with Tim Ream, right, as that kind of veteran center back who maybe isn't going to start a ton of games at the World Cup, but could maybe be a center back option you bring in off the bench. You play in your third group game. You have a good leadership voice in the locker room. That's a really good point.
The other dynamic that I think about, though, is we've seen MLS center backs get their chance, like Walker Zimmerman in the last World Cup, or I think of Kyle Beckerman or Beasler in the past. But I think this thing that's shifting under Pochettino is a little bit is some of the more attacking players that are getting look. Look, Landon obviously was kind of an exception for a long time, but I think they're, with the way the national team is right now, across the board, these MLS guys coming in, and Diego Luna exemplifies it best as like pushing and coming in and pushing the level and pushing the attitude. I think that's a really good spot to be in for a lot of these guys.
Okay, well, we speaking of defenders, we have a pretty important defender and now head coach of the Portland Timbers standing by. Manchester United legend, Champions League winner, and head coach of the Portland Timbers is joining us. Can you hear us, Phil?
No, I can't. I can't hear you.
Phil, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you.
Last time we had you, last time I saw you, actually, you were a TV guy. You're technically like my coworker. On a scale of 1 to 10, Phil, how much are you missing TV commentary life?
Do you know, I miss the trips to New York and the walk around Fifth Avenue and a few beers after the show. But I've got to say, I prefer to be on the bench than in the studio with you, Julian. That's for sure.
Fair. That's fair enough. Well, thanks for coming back. We appreciate it, Phil.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Phil. Should we call you Gaffer? What should we call you? Phil's good or Gaffer? I feel like I have to call you. Well, Gaffer, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to ask you what everybody asked me. What do you see? What are the big differences between here in MLS and England?
Do you know, I think when I arrived here 3 years ago, I'd say that the differences were pretty big. I think the gap is definitely closing. The professionalism, the sports science, the quality. Somebody asked me the other day, I think it was Diego Valeri, said about, I think the coaching is improving in terms of the tactics, the style of play. Every game now is a different challenge against a different style, against a different system. The playing definitely has improved. The facilities are equally as good as back in Europe. The coverage, praising you guys, I think the Apple coverage has changed the dynamics of MLS football for sure. The coverage and the exposure that you guys are giving us now is brilliant. So I think the league is in a really good place.
Phil, I feel like I would have loved playing for you because, I don't know, maybe you would have called me the best number 6 in the league, even if I wasn't very good. We've seen you talk about we've seen you talk about David Ayala as one of the best young players in the league, one of the best 6s in the league. And also David Da Costa has come in and you've described him as one of the best 10s in the league. I'm just curious, is that something that you do to build up your players' confidence? I don't doubt that you actually really believe that because they are wonderful players. But they're very strong statements. And I just wonder if it's more for, your own team to kind of rally around the fact that you have so much confidence in them.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, Dax, to be honest. I did it last season with Evander. Bradley will tell you. I mean, Bradley spoke really well about Evander at the start of the season. Nobody really spoke about him because of his first year. And I started working with him, and I thought it was twofold. I believed it, but I needed him to believe it a little bit more, that he had somebody that really sort of like believed in him. And I'm, with Ayala at this moment in time, his performances has been really good. He's a young player that needs more confidence in himself. He needs to trust himself. He needs to own that level that I'm talking about. Da Costa too, and it's a little bit of motivating my own players, believing in my own players, giving them the confidence that they've got a manager that really, really believes in them to take the next step. Somebody like Da Costa, we know he's going to be a good player in this league, but there's a couple of more levels he needs to go at. Scoring goals is one, winning games on his own is another. And I felt with Evander last season, that was the one that he almost had to sort of like back up my words with performances. And to be fair to him, he did. And he took the next step. He was nearly an MVP. He's obviously gone to Cincy now, and his status within the league is really good. So it's a motivational tool for my players, but it's also to tell my players that I really believe in them. We're Portland, we're up in the Northeast, and I want people to see how good of players we've got up here as well. So it's a little bit of twofold, really.
Phil, is there a manager you had that you took that from that made you get up for big games like that?
I've got to say, David Moyes would have never said that publicly. I think he called me the worst midfield player in the league in the motivation one game. But I think Sir Alex was really good at sort of like selling his own players, believing in his own players, and having the courage to go out there and telling the world that his players were as good as the others in the league. So I'd say that probably Sir Alex had that real confidence, and I think that rubbed off on the players that we had at that time.
It's a smart way to put needed pressure on players. It's smart.
Yeah.
Phil, you of course, Dax is going to start talking about the sixes, but I want to ask you about the attack here. And you have a number of options: 3 players with 5 goals, and then you mentioned DaCosta as well with his, I think, 10 goal contributions already. But you started the season off flying, right? We're winning games 4-2, 3-3, and then as of late, it's been much more of winning 1-0 matches. Is that actually a positive for you, or do you feel like you need to get back to scoring more goals in the attack?
Well, I think the period where we scored the 4s and the 2s, teams probably hadn't worked us out a little bit in terms of sort of like we had so much speed up front. We were really good on the counter-attack. Anthony, DaCosta, Santi Moreno, Kelsey, real high-level top-speed players. And then we hit a patch in May where we went to a few clubs and they sat off us. And I think our forward players found it a little bit difficult. Against Colorado, they did the same. But because we got used to playing against more of a low block, we started to find other solutions. So I think it's been great for their development to see different teams playing different styles against us, not giving us as much space in behind, not pressing us as much high up the field. So I think it's been great. We've got a really young team. Anthony's 22, DaCosta's 23, Santi's only just turned 23, Fori 22, Ayala 20, Sermon 21, I think now. So we've got players that are actually learning on the job. You cannot take them out of the team because they're playing that well at the moment, but they're just learning how to, 1, play in this league, 2, manage the expectations, and 3, sort of like manage different types of scenarios within football. And it's been really good seeing how they develop. Somebody like Anthony has really had to develop his game from, being a counter-attack type player to now having to probably take the ball under pressure with 2-3 men around him, knowing when to pass, knowing when to run. And I think that's been brilliant for us, really.
Phil,
Phil.
Sorry, Daxie. You've chopped and changed the 9s, and more often than not, it's worked. You'll go with Mora one week and Kelsey another week. And I'm sitting back in studio. I'm like, I wonder why. But then that player will score a goal. And what makes that decision? Is it training or is it just how you feel?
Would you ever like that, Bradley?
I'd have lost my mind.
He would have hated it.
I'd have lost my mind.
Pipe Mora was in my office last week and he said, "Boss, we're like that. What's happening?" but you know what? I think I've been lucky so far that. Pipe scored 2. He was in the team of the week, and I left him out. Then Kelsey got in, scored 2, and then he was in the team of the week. So it's just been working out really good. I think there'll become a time when I've got to pick one, but this moment in time, Moore at home is really good. Kelsey away is really good. So I think it's working out really good at this moment in time. There becomes a time when you've got to sort of like pick your number 9, but last year, we played Pipe Mora in every single game, and by the time we got to the last 3 weeks of the season, he was, the sponge was empty. So yeah. I think we've got to make sure that we are fresh come the end of the season for the push, and we've got 2 strikers that they both want to play together. When they come to my office, they say, "Can we not just play 4-4-2 and we both play together?" So. Strikers are selfish, Bradley.
Exactly. That's what I've been thinking about.
The most selfish. Phil, I want to take it to the other side of the field because there was a guy you mentioned, one guy that I think is a written in pen starter for every game for you, Finn Sermon. So it's kind of a 2-part question, and I hope you can stick with me because there were rumors kind of abound that my old Nashville SC boss and fellow Englishman for you, Gary Smith, had kind of come in and around preseason. And I just am curious about what your relationship was like with Gary. I know you guys struggled a lot defensively last year. If it was more of a, "Hey, Gary, let me just kind of pick your brain on how you see us being able to improve defensively," or if it was just, 2 Englishmen, having an English breakfast, having a tea, well, could be that. I don't know. But also kind of speak to Finn Sermon's development throughout the season.
Yeah, well, I mean, on Gary, he's obviously a friend who I've respected since I've came to the MLS. He's been brilliant support and for me in terms of sort of like him helping. And he was down in Coachella in pre-season. I told him to come and watch a couple of the games. He gives some really good feedback. We met for lunch. I speak to him quite regularly. You played for Gary. Defensive structure, defensive mentality, never, that never say die. Obviously, we've got Eric Miller here who was in that team, so I wanted to pick his brains because we all have this idealistic approach to football that we want to play the beautiful game. But what I've learned is that the most successful teams, I looked at LAFC last year. At the end of the season, they went to sort of like 5-4-1, hard to beat, clean sheet mentality. Seattle have the same mentality. Is that, clean sheets are going to be really important. In the last 2 seasons, we've conceded over 60 goals. That's not going to win you any type of playoff game. So I think he was just probably really strong on doing the basics really well, being pragmatic at times, making sure that you're in games for as long as possible. And I think with somebody like Finn Sermon, I think Finn Sermon would be sort of like a Gary Smith ideal centre-back. Loves to defend, loves his crosses, likes getting his nose, broke, and he just loves defending. He's a throwback to the old type defender. So he's been fantastic. I think he's an all-star. I really do. I know that's another bullshit comment, but I honestly think he is
he's
been great. Up there with some of the best centre-backs in the league. I don't see many better than his in terms of his consistency of his performances.
Let's get to a couple of the fan questions too. All right, Phil, is that all right? We're going to throw it out to the people. So don't shoot the messenger, okay? All right. This one's good. Jace Brook. Besides Portland, can you give us your best and you don't have to answer this one if you don't want to, and your least favorite stadium to coach in?
Oof. Well, we went up to Seattle and we played on the old Seattle pitch was Starfire, I think it's called. The pitch was terrible. It was like a concrete pitch. That wasn't great, even though the atmosphere was really good. There are some really good stadiums now in the MLS. I've got to say, I do like playing in the majority. I'd say maybe Dallas is one that always seems a little bit more quieter, and the heat there is just. I've played there the last 3 seasons on July 4th, which is honestly it's just so hot. So I'd say that probably Dallas is one that probably springs to mind because of the heat. I love like the Cincinnati. There's Columbus type stadiums, those tight stadiums. Providence Park is obviously a special stadium to play at as well.
Well done for getting that Seattle. Well done for getting that Seattle jab in, man. I like that.
Yeah, come on. We could have seen that coming.
Your fans will respect it.
Yeah. Just you got to keep fanning the flames. Fanning the flames. Yeah. That's what we do.
Dax is still sunburned, by the way, from starting his career in Dallas.
I have done a Dallas
right now.
4th of July game.
I saw Dax in Orlando last week, and I thought that's the last place that Dax would want to be is in Orlando, no?
I'm moving back there. That's going to be home. I'm born and raised there. I survived there as a child. Lots of sunscreen. I need a sunscreen deal, okay? So I'm going to talk to my agent about that.
Nice.
All right, let's send it to Brad the Lad, who says, Phil, you are actually my hero. I am a Minnesota United fan, but my question for you is, did Inter Milan ever come calling for your services?
Into Miami?
Inter Milan.
Inter Milan.
Inter Milan.
The first Inter.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Cool. And then one more. Yeah, go ahead, Dax.
I just have a fun one for you because I know that you were the assistant to your brother Gary over in Spain. When are we going to get Gary over to a game in Portland? Have you talked to him about this? I was on the It's Called Soccer podcast with him, and he kept asking me about Portland, this and that. And I said, well, why don't you come on over here and see it for yourself?
He said he's going to come out in August to a game. So that would be nice. It's I think he would love it out here. I honestly do. I think I look at him at this moment in time. He's doing a few things in the American market. He's trying to earn some money for when the World Cup comes. I think he's trying to get his name out here when the World Cup comes. But it'd be nice for him to come to a game. The owner always asks, "When's your brother coming? When's the boys coming?" So
Phil, he's probably flying on Never Happening Airlines. My dad's got the same one. He uses the same company.
Yeah, I'd like him just to drop me a text. Never mind.
Just shout me.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Nerdy Soccer Guy says, Phil, and this kind of goes off what we were talking about off the top of the show, so maybe you can get a little wild here for us. Are you planning to bring anyone in during the transfer window? Does Phil Neville have a dream signing from all those big name free agents out there?
We're going to go big. We're going to go big.
Love that.
Breaking news. Here we go.
Yeah, look, I think we're in a situation at this moment in time where we're really, really happy with the roster that we've got. I do think we need a couple more players for us to compete. The season's long. I think last season taught us a lot. You need depth, you need quality. At this moment in time, Jonathan Rodriguez has been out injured a while, so we're going to need goals in the team. Me and Ned, the GM, and Jack, the technical director, and the owner, we're working every single day to make sure that we're going to try and strengthen the team. I think the owner is fantastic here. He wants to go for it. He wants to compete. He's had MLS success here in the past, and he wants to bring success back to Portland. The fans, I think there's a special feeling in the town at this moment in time. I think they can smell something really exciting is happening with the young players that we've got. And the owner is really on board with trying to strengthen the team in the summer window. Teams that strengthened last year in the summer window went on to be successful, and we want to be part of that success. We have to compete, in the transfer market to make sure that we are competitive on the field.
I got one. Are you guys there? I'll hop in. I wanted to ask just about the Western Conference. It feels pretty open to me. And you mentioned coming out and competing. Vancouver, of course, have set the standard, but they put a lot into the beginning part of the season. There's going to be the usuals that tend to climb their way up. And San Diego's been an upstart, really fantastic beginning. But because it's open, does that add more impetus to try to go out and maybe make a run at things? Or do you agree with the assessment that the West is open compared to the East?
I think the West is really wide open. You look at Houston a month ago and you think, oh, they're out of it. But you knew with a little bit, they've invested in 3 or 4 really good players, and Ben obviously has got great experience. They're now in that playoff position. And, I think a couple of wins and a couple of defeats, you can be in 3rd and then you can be down to 7th or 8th. I think it's the tightest conference I've seen since I came to the MLS. There's not much difference between top and bottom, and there's normally 3 or 4 teams sort of like breaking through and breaking free, and I don't think I see that at this moment in time. San Jose have been probably, for me, one of the most exciting teams to watch this year. Bruce has gone in there, and the scoring goals are exciting, they're dangerous. You'd think that Galaxy now will probably start taking points off people now they've got the first win and they've got the quality that they've got. So I think it's one of those years where I think that you've just got to hang in there for as long as possible and try and get as close to the top 4, and then anything can happen. Hopefully the gap can be closed with Vancouver. And, I think last season we finished with, 48 points. That in previous seasons would have got us into the top sort of like 6, where last season there was clear standout. This year, maybe 48 points will get you into the top 7 because everyone's taking points off each other.
Phil, thanks for your time, man. You've been brilliant. Can we just get you out of here on one more question? I don't want to get you in trouble, but the Club World Cup is right around the corner. So we're going to have you start, bench, cut the 3 MLS teams in the Club World Cup.
I like this, Dax.
Based on who you think is going to do the best, who you think is going to go the furthest. And just a little caveat, Seattle is in a group with PSG and Atletico Madrid.
If you want to start there.
The Wi-Fi's gone down, Dax. Look, I think Seattle. I'm going to go up to a couple of the Seattle games. They've got the toughest group. I mean, they've got the group of death. I think for them to come out of their group would be an absolute
miracle.
An incredible achievement. The teams that they play are high level teams. You saw PSG in the Champions League final, the phenomenal team. You'd think that Miami have the quality, the experience. I think experience is going to be important. They've obviously got, playing down in Florida. I think Miami have probably got the best probably opportunity to progress. Their group looks pretty tight. It looks like they've got some winnable games. You get out the group and you've got Messi in your team. I think, anything can happen. And I think on their day, what I would say about LAFC is in terms of I think they could set up. They've got a coach that's got experience, and they could set up in a way where they could play some like counter-attack football and cause some problems. But they're all playing some incredible teams. But I do think that my old team, Miami, have probably got the best best route to get further in the competition from the MLS teams.
So you're saying start Miami, bench LAFC, cut Seattle.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
We're
right?
translating.
I
think
actually
that's
didn't
what he
say
said.
that, Bradley. If you said that, I'll agree with it, yeah.
All right, Phil, before we say goodbye, one last question.
One last question. There's been about 4 last questions.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
have.
bye.
I'm joking.
I know I'm not going to bother you with this, Phil. Another
It's
time.
okay. I mean, training's over now anyway, so I missed
this is really important. I just wanted to know, David Beckham celebrated his 50th birthday last month, and I know you couldn't make it. You had a big game that Saturday night, and I just wanted to know if you sent him a gift.
Sir David, have you not been reading the news?
Is he a sir yet?
No,
is that happening?
I hope so. Yeah. Look, I was invited to all 3 parties, but I couldn't go to any of them. So I was invited. That was the good thing. I was still invited, even though he sacked me about 3 years ago. All right, guys.
Cheers, Phil.
One last question. No, okay.
No, done.
Thanks, Phil.
See you later, guys.
Phil.
Thanks, man.
Apologies.
Great work. Well done.
We apologize so much to the Portland Timbers who have, I think actually we should be saying you're welcome to the Portland Timbers players because we gave you the day off, didn't we?
There you go.
What's practice? Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Yeah, what is practice, right?
The game's not till they're on Sunday Night Soccer. They got an extra day,
fine.
you know. They're all right, yeah.
That's right. They are on Sunday Night Soccer, so don't you forget it. Sunday Night Soccer, you've got St. Louis City visiting Phil Neville and the Portland Timbers. All right, before we wrap up today's show, I really want to get to All-Star voting. It is still open, and there's a snub every single year. There's a couple snubs, and the internet and the media are in an absolute uproar for just what a travesty that could be. So, in the hopes to help somebody out and to not let that happen, we are going to let the 3 of you today make your case. So here's who's off limits. It is the top 5 in each position that are completely off limits to you guys. Here's the right backs, here's the left back. So you cannot pick from these 5. These are based off of the voting that has come in so far from the fans. And let's see, yep, going through the defensive midfielders here and the attacking midfielders and, of course, the forwards and the wingers as well. Lionel Messi currently leading that vote. So we'll kick things off here with, you got 60 seconds. The timer is going to be up to make your case to the internet to avoid an all-star snub for this person. Brad, you ready?
You want me to go first? I don't need 60 seconds, but yeah, start the timer.
The floor is yours, Bradley Wright Phillips.
I'm going attacker. From what, not just numbers, from what I've seen on the eye. Obviously work on the 360 show, I get to see a lot of football. And every time we switch to one of their games, I see Zinkernagel doing something, really impactful to the Chicago Fire. I think he has 5 and 4 goals and assists, maybe even more, 6 and 4. I think he has 10 total. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter about the numbers. I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. Technical player, drives at defenders, good in 1v1 situations, scores important goals, can set up a player. I just think Zinkernagel for me has been a guy that has quietly gone about his business, but I think massively underrated.
And you did it in 35 seconds. Finger snaps.
Done it in 10.
No, okay, so no one's going to vote for Zinkernagel now that Brad just did that, because that underwhelming. Sell me him, Brad. You got to sell me him.
Watch the games, and you will see what I'm seeing. He's a baller. He's been balling.
I do agree with you, but I want people to get my guy. I think it transitions nicely into Kalen's guy, actually.
I actually do, yeah, because it's out of character for you, Brad, to pick the assist man. I know you've got the Brad.
He's got goals too. He's got goals too.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you got Dax McCarty's jersey behind you, so you're feeling giving today, in a giving mood. Yeah. But I would say take the striker. You picked the right team, but the wrong man. It's Hugo Kuipers. He's got 10 goals so far this season. And for me, when you look back at the end of the season, we can't not have the Golden Boot winner in the All-Star game. And he's not in the top 5 as far as the fan voting right now. Yes, I know Tyboribo has 13 goals. He's been excellent, but he's actually overperforming his expected goals by a good margin. The chances are there for Kuipers. The only thing I didn't like was the match that I was on that he did. They won 4-0 on the road to Charlotte, and he gave up a penalty to Brian Gutierrez, who I'm like, hey, man, I'm stumping for you, but I need you not to hand away any pens right now. But I think the way that Berhalter's system is, the way those chances come for getting the XG, Brad, just looking at the way he gets his goals, back post, those wingers, giving crosses, I think he's going to end up doing it. So Fire fans, Section 8, Sector Latino, I need you to stuff the ballot box and get my guy in the All-Star game.
Jill, how far over 60 seconds did Kalen just
yeah,
go
we're,
there? He
we're
should
at,
be
we're
just
at
on
one,
my time.
we
I
are-
could have my
we're
time.
at 120.
I took 20 from
We are
Brad.
at
There you go.
118.
All right, Jill, give me the go, and I'm going to crush this.
Three,
He's gonna need 2 minutes.
2, 1. Dax.
Where are my Philadelphia Union fans at? The team leading the Supporter Shield race, I openly questioned their midfield. After they lost Jose Martinez in the middle of last year, after they traded away Jack McGlynn, I should know better than to question Ernst Tanner and this team. Donley Jean-Jacques has been the best box-to-box midfielder in MLS this entire season. And his partnership with Jovan Lukic has been tremendous, both of them sharing the responsibility to defend and attack. He matches the eye test, which is what Brad talks about, being able to watch him every single week. He's been tremendous. He kind of reminds me, Kalen Carr, Bradley Wright Phillips, of a throwback to Shalry Joseph, one of the most dominant midfielders in MLS history. And if you guys like data and you guys like numbers, Donley Jean-Jacques is in the top 15, 20 percentile for his position in MLS in goals, assists, chances created, successful dribbles. Oh, and if you like defending, he's in the top percentile in interceptions, recoveries, and possession won in the final third. He should be an all-star. No questions asked.
You did it in 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Boom! Brad, that's how it's done.
To a minute.
Brad, that's how it's done. Take notes. You shouldn't be sleeping. You should be taking notes.
I like that shout. I like that shout.
Did you rehearse that, Dax? That was like timed perfectly.
I didn't. I just wrote a couple notes. That's all.
Look at
I
that.
should have rehearsed.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's called prep, Brad.
Hey, it's all up in the peanut, man. I work in the peanut, man.
Don't forget that the All-Star voting is still open. It's open for another week or so. So get in there. Take these guys' thoughtful words to heart and maybe save one of those 3 players from being a potential All-Star snub. So we will see come, I think, end of June when the All-Stars are announced, if either 3 of you did MLS God's work. So we'll find out.
You also, a quick shout out to Brad Stuver. You need an Austin player. It's at home, right? They haven't scored any goals this season. So
that's tough.
Stuver, I think Stuver's got to be
Brad
the guy.
who he thinks should be in there.
Give
Owen Wolf some love. Owen Wolf, he had a great start to the season, but he slowed down a little bit now. But I love seeing young players rewarded for good performances. Owen Wolf has consistently been one of their better players. So if you don't go with Stuver, I think you go with Owen Wolf.
Okay. I want to send it out to a few other of the fan questions that we got in there. If Patrick Agyemang leaving Charlotte FC, if so, teams want him. Big Pat's not going anywhere. Who should Atlanta United bring in the transfer window? Does Atlanta United, should they have to spend any more money?
You have to bring in Jesus.
Okay.
He might be able to help.
That's to a nerdy soccer guy. Jennifer Garcia wants to know which team is going to struggle the most without the players that have been called up. One that comes to mind instantly is, I think, Vancouver has 9 players on international duty. Vancouver
is going to struggle the most, no question about it. I think they're missing, I did the math the other day, I think they're missing 7 starters who are all going to be gone with World Cup qualifiers or Gold Cup for different reasons, and especially coming off the performance they just had in CONCACAF Champions Cup final. They're going to need all their best players if they want to stay atop the Western Conference. And the other one, for me, is San Diego. They're losing Luca De La Torre and Anibal Godoy out of that midfield. And I'm pulling no punches here. San Diego has had a top 3 midfield in MLS all season long with Sverskov, Godoy, De La Torre. They dominate games. They defend well. They create chances for their strikers. So when you take not just one player out of that midfield, but 2, I think that this is going to be a difficult stretch for Mikey Veras, and he's going to have to come up with some solutions how to replace them.
All right, before we say goodbye, go ahead, Brad, and then we'll say goodbye. I want to talk about one topic.
No, it was me. No, I was just going to say the international break is also making me feel more confident about my pick for Kuipers as Golden Boot winner. Because if you look at the Golden Boot race over the years, you look at the guys that have won it. Bradley Wright Phillips 2 times, by the way. You go through Hani Mukhtar. You go through Benteke, Wando before he was even with the national team. It's generally guys that don't play internationally. So I think that's you got to keep an eye on that. I know. Messi's going to get there.
You just have to not be good enough to play for your national team, and you can win the Golden Boot.
Or you got to pick players from countries that are tough like that. Yeah.
Where's this? Marcus Pickett. Marcus Pickett. I see it. Walker Zimmerman's copied my haircut. I didn't copy his, my guy.
Speaking of Golden Boot, I want to talk about a guy that scored the single season record with 34 goals in league history. That is LAFC's Carlos Vela, one of the most decorated players that this league has ever seen. He did announce his retirement officially from world football last week after a 19-year career. So many milestones for him. So I want to know, when it comes to Carlos Vela, where does he rank in all-time MLS greats? Are you guys putting him top 10? Are you putting him top 5? Where is he?
I think it'll be tougher for Kalen and Dax to maybe put him top 5 or 10. But for me, my time in MLS has been shorter. So I would definitely have Carlos top 10. I was lucky enough to play with Carlos in 2020, and the man was everything he said on the tin. He's one of those players you see from afar and you're like, is he that good? When you get up close to him, very difficult to defend. The left foot, a wand of a left foot, can put the ball wherever he wants. He was unbelievable to watch and play with. Also, just an amazing guy. So for me, what he done in the league, the record you spoke about, he's top 10 easily for me.
Anybody have him top 5?
What do you think, Kalen?
Yeah, I have him. I maybe have him 5. I think for me, it's like Landon, Wando, Beckham. I have to put Messi, I think, 4 already, even though he needs to win an MLS Cup. But I think Vela is right outside of that for me.
Robbie Keane slander will not be tolerated on this show.
Well, I already picked 2 players from the Galaxy that beat me in the final. I can't have all 3 on top of me.
It shouldn't matter.
Joseph Martinez is right up there, I think, right neck and neck. Echeverry going back deeper. Dwayne De Rosario is right up there. There's a bunch of names, but Vela for me, like, the part that stood out also is, I played with one of the best Mexican players ever with Cuauhtemoc Blanco, and I don't actually think he gets enough credit for his time, because he was here when Beckham was here, but he was a rock star. The way that we traveled opened up bigger stadiums. He was a little ahead of his time, but I think Vela is actually a better player. And that's with all the utmost respect to Cuauhtemoc Blanco, and he had a different sort of connection to the Mexican national team for a lot of reasons. But I think Vela ushered in this new era that we're seeing, that, people thought it was going to be Chicharito. It wasn't. It was Vela. And Vela came in, even when you see what Chucky Lozano coming here at 29 to San Diego, the way Leagues Cup have happened, the Joint World Cup, all these things. I'm not saying he was the sort of impetus for all that, but he was the sort of turning point for me and for what he did for that club, LAFC. And I think across the league, he was just, on another planet for those years that he was here. It just looked like he was just playing on easy mode in FIFA. It was crazy.
Yeah, Carlos Vela, you guys are victims a little bit of the mentality of right now. Listen, I want to pay respect to my elders and make sure that we're talking about guys who really helped build MLS from the ground up. Carlos Vela, though, for everything that he has done, for everything he accomplished in his relatively short time in MLS, he's absolutely in the range of like 10 to 15 for me. You can make an argument for as high as 10, 9, and then also you can make an argument for some other guys to sneak in there before him. But he still is the orchestrator of the greatest season in MLS history. I believe it was 34 goals, 15 assists, just video game numbers for Carlos Vela that year. And really the best player, most dominant player in the league during his run of form. Helped put LAFC on the map. I don't think, if you asked any LAFC fan or owner, I don't think they could have hit a bigger grand slam than signing Carlos Vela as their initial DP signing. They knocked that one out of the park. He was brilliant for LAFC, so he deserves all the love, all the flowers. My only frustration, I guess, with Vela and the way that his career ended was just that, how his career ended. I would have loved to have been able to see him and LAFC come to an agreement a little bit earlier, give him his flowers, make sure that he could have been praised to the high heavens from everyone, because he means a lot to that LAFC community, that LAFC squad. He was absolutely fantastic during his time in MLS. Enjoy retirement, man.
Certainly was a 2019 MLS MVP, Supporters Shield that same year, and an MLS Cup he brought to LAFC in 2022. So congratulations on an epic career to Carlos Vela. And thank you to everybody who's been watching and partaking in our stream today. Please like the stream and be sure to subscribe to our MLS channel. But that does it for today's show. For Bradley Wright Phillips, Dax McCarty, and Kaylin Carr, I'm Jillian Sakovitz, and we're saying goodbye and have a fantastic weekend.
Peace.